I was disappointed when I began playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. Not because of the structure of the game that allows you to decorate your house and the rest of the island to your liking. It wasn't because of the collectathon aspect of it that gives the player a healthy goal to strive for, with a glorious museum that represents all your hard work. And it wasn't because of my fellow villagers, the ones I told to join my island in the first place and sit around the fire with me. My younger self would have loved to be the mayor in New Leaf, and to have worked a job in Wild World under Tom Nook. What I had instead as a kid was a little different. In Far Cry 4, I was merciless taking down outposts. In Doom, I was eliminating every demon in sight, sending them back to where they came from. In GTA, I was... I can't say here, I think my mom is watching. Cozy and chaotic are the yin and yang of video games. For every Stardew Valley or Disney Dreamlight Valley, there's a Call of Duty and a Call of Juarez. The cozy emphasizes peace and relationships, but the chaotic emphasizes weaponry and explosions. A lot of explosions. The reason why people play both kinds of games is for the relaxation aspect of it. Sometimes it's just so nice and peaceful to hose down a dinosaur. But it can also be nice to mow down a bunch of innocent people. The relaxing nature of cozy games is obvious. They typically involve little to no combat, have a good chance of containing cute animal buddies, and gloriously showcase the world around them. Aesthetically pleasing scenery is common in these games, and they are typically accompanied by feelings of friendliness. Now, relaxing in a chaotic game doesn't appear obvious, but there can be a real sense of comfort robbing the bank you know and love, or navigating through a favorite map that you've enjoyed for years. There's a calmness within vanquishing endless waves of enemies. When expertly owning the place, the power is relaxing. Feeling like the king of the world is a relaxing state of mind within the virtual space. One of the most relaxing game experiences I had was actually just watching Jacksepticeye play Firewatch. And as anyone who grew up with YouTube knows, that was almost like playing the game with a friend. It was a calming experience visually, and it was captivating to see how the story was going to go down.
Stabs him in the butthole.
Now, a relaxing, chaotic game that has accompanied me since its release is Far Cry 4. Typically, it's a series that would not be described as relaxing, which is totally fair because there's a lot of craziness. But I personally love Far Cry 4's world of Kyrat, and just being a small spectator in it is a real pleasure. In fact, being a spectator is almost the focal point in certain games, especially cozy entries that focus on picture taking. In elevated experiences, photography greatly emphasizes the subtle beauty within a digital world, making it more layered. Those that choose to make their games all about photography give themselves room to create notably detailed areas that are made with true passion. Another genre within cozy games that is commonly found is cooking. These entries put food and everything surrounding it on a high pedestal. It reminds the player that chefs can be skilled artists, and that cooking is an art form. Everything in these games emphasizes the beauty of the kitchen and the amount of effort that comes with making meals. In other words, it reminds me how unskilled I am in the kitchen setting. An area I do strive in, however, is tidiness. So the games that emphasize that are right up my alley. Cleaning and organization really just fuel the soul, and it's calming to just see something go from a complete mess to a proud space. That coincides with farming very well, one of the most popular cozy game tropes. Working with a small amount of land and watching it grow into something larger than life brings a great sense of pride. The entries that contribute to the genre in unique ways is what I tend to appreciate the most, and this kind of creativity is what should be celebrated. But enough of that. Let's bring our attention back to death, destruction, and utter anarchy. With chaotic games, they tend to be in the form of first-person shooters, or third-person shooters that rely on the player eliminating enemies in the way of their goal. For the more strategic, a low variety of weapons and ammo will be given out throughout the experience, but for others, great destruction can be caused at any time. Some chaotic games are in the form of hack-and-slash titles as well, distancing themselves from the firearms and instead associating closely to melee weapons. This is a genre that appears less often, but is always great and appreciated when it resurfaces. Melee combat is typically portrayed elegantly and is emphasized as a respected art form. With the entire chaotic genre, an obsession some of these games have is the repetitive inclusion of big, scary monsters. Oh yes. I mean, if it's a horror title, that makes a bit more sense, but even those on the other end of the spectrum tend to include wacky monsters. This is in no way a complaint. I'm glad that they're here. I just think it's a very specific obsession to have in some of these entries, and the absurdity of it can be comedic. But throughout the chaotic and the cozy, enjoying a game with friends can elevate the experience to a new level. It can change what was once repetitive or redundant into a breath of fresh air, and regardless of the genre, be a wonderful space for conversation. At best, playing with friends births therapeutic moments that raise spirits up, and it's easily some of the best memories I've made with games. A major element that applies to most cozy games is that they are appropriate for all ages. I could gladly introduce my little brother into one and think nothing of it. It's the kind of content he could enjoy to the fullest, without any major adult themes going over his head. He could dive headfirst into a cozy world and be immersed entirely. With chaotic games, a solid portion of what's included may be inappropriate for that younger audience. Whether it's sexual content, violence, or raunchy humor, it may not make sense for kids to spend large amounts of time within these mature worlds.
Much more realistic.
These games should not give into a pressure to soften up, however. Great stories have been told in these settings, and heavy censorship can diminish the impact of a game's narrative. It can weaken intimidating characters and ruin the overall tone.
No, mein Führer. I'm from Arizona.
Chaotic is for the mature, and that is more than okay. And then there are the entries that do both. It's really awesome to see worlds that seamlessly include chaotic weaponry and combat, yet allow for creativity and self-expression without penalty. In Tears of the Kingdom, there are plenty of different enemies to fight. You can fight all day in there, yet there is also a gentle side to the game, like cooking and socializing with the beings of Hyrule. Whatever mood the player is in, they can express themselves accordingly. Some games of this kind are more on the polarizing side. Cult of the Lamb looks cozy and involves a lot of cute animal companionship, but at the end of the day, this is a cult, so demonic representation is abundant, and after a recent update, there is now sexual activity. In certain Pokemon games, the lovable creatures can be pet and loved, but are also forced into small balls and are typically only let out to fight another animal to the death. It's a harsh reality for them. But the most polarizing game by far is Viscera Cleanup Detail. It's all about tidying up, a cozy game staple, but this isn't just a mess, this is a whole ass murder scene. Like, what the f*** happened here? Did Santa do this? Who harmed these poor elves? Typically, the contrasting themes are not this extreme, but the titles involving elements of both genres often stand the test of time. But whether I spend my time in Animal Crossing or Doom, both are genuine forms of art that are great contributions to the video game medium. They excellently tell stories and push the boundaries of their platforms in creative ways. And when I think I've seen it all, there's always more to discover and more on the way. For those who mainly play cozy or chaotic, it's best to try out something outside of the usual genres, because your favorite game can still be out there, and you just have yet to play it. Animal Crossing New Horizons means a lot to me, and Grand Theft Auto V means a lot to me. While on opposite sides of the spectrum, one isn't necessarily better than the other. They're both good games. They're both forms of art. Throughout the two genres of these games, and the many subgenres within, there are phenomenal worlds to unwind in. Regardless of the subject matter, the capacity for greatness is limitless. The titles that can be enjoyed with friends make for wonderful experiences, and whether a game's focus is on cleanliness or wild brutality, there's always the potential for it to evolve the video game medium. But please leave the elves alone.